Right, wonderful. All right, so is there a motion to call the meeting to order?
Call a meeting to order.
Joy, is there a second?
I'll second.
Emma, thank you. Now, this is going to be fancy because I'm going back and forth now between the agenda. Michelle, would it be appropriate for me to, oh, there's no public chat. Never mind. I was going to say I put the agenda in the chat, so I don't have to go back and forth, but that's okay. All right, great. So first order of business, even before public comment, correct, Michelle, is approval of the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a
Let me
motion?
just-
Go ahead.
Sorry, do you mind calling the meeting to order with the time?
Oh, yes, I can do that. I'd like to call the meeting to order as approved by Joy, seconded by Emma at 7:03. All right. So is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move the motion.
Yvonne moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Yes. I just want to point out my name is spelled Buzzee, Testa-Buzzy. It's spelled in different ways. So if that could be corrected. Any other amendments or changes to the minutes? No. Seeing no hands or hearing no voices. I'll go ahead and is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended? Yvonne.
I'll move the motion again.
Yep, Yvonne
Second.
and Joyce. Yvonne approved and Joy seconded. All those in favor, raise your hand. How do I do this with? Jasmine, do you want to just do a vocal vote? So all those in favor, raise your or say aye.
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 3, 4, okay. 5, that's me. 5 approve. All those opposed. All those abstaining. Sharon is abstaining. Okay. So 5 approve, 1 abstain. Yep. All right. So I believe, Michelle, is there anyone in public comment?
There's not.
There is not. All right. So then I believe we will move right. I can't say it right this evening. We will move right to our guest, Will Schwarzenstein. I hope I said that correctly. Please correct us if I did not, Will. I'm Christina Testa-Buzzy. I'm one of our commissioners with our group here, as well as the chair currently. Will, thank you for joining us. If you would like to introduce yourself. I have your name and title, but I'll let you go ahead and present that and then just talk a little bit about your role. And then as noted on our agenda, we appreciate you wanting to chat with us about female participation in all sports programs and answer some questions that we did send ahead of time. So
Sure.
over to you, Will.
So first off, good evening. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate you for giving me the opportunity to take part in this meeting and have a discussion with you guys about the strategies to increase female participation rates in our rec sports offerings. Before we begin, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself and my background. I happen to be a Norwalk native. I grew up here and played in all of the rec department sports programs that I am now overseeing. And I've always had an appreciation that Norwalk truly values gender equity and diversity in its program offerings. I began this position of the athletic supervisor in January of 2024, and I immediately noticed the lack of female participants amongst our sports programming, particularly in the youth programming. Excuse me. For instance, when I came on board, it was in the middle of basketball season, and it was kind of disheartening to see that we had only had 4 girls participating in our girls basketball program for grades 3 through 8. As a youth, the girls basketball program was as big or bigger than the boys program when I was a child. Without speaking on what my predecessors did or did not do, I'm trying to come at the sports programming moving forward from a reset and rebuild point of view. Our programs are going to shift a little bit into more of a developmental culture instead of a free play style culture. We're going to try to teach more proper skills that are necessary to play the sports, and then hopefully increase those over the course of the program and the years that they participate. This is hopefully going to encourage participants to continue playing these sports throughout their youth and possibly further into their life. Before diving into the questions that you all presented with me previously, I would like to acknowledge some statistics and facts regarding youth and high school age sports nationally and on the state level. The Aspen Institute's Project Play Report from 2023 states that between 2019 and 2022, regular team sports participation decreased 6%, but total participation rates remained flat. Within the same time frame, girls' participation rates have increased 3 percentage points, while boys' participation rates have decreased by 1 percentage point. Data is showing that children are trying sports, but not playing as frequently. Many children do not try a sport or won't continue playing sports due to increased pressure to perform and the feeling that peers and adults are constantly judging. In the state of Connecticut in particular, statistics show that we are the 15th state in the United States for female participation rates. Girls' high school sports participation has been sadly steadily declining for about 20 years. Reasons attributed to this decline is the pressure to specialize in one sport, the feeling that there's no need to try other sports, and the thought that there is no need to be physically active during the winter months when their main sport may not be in season. In 2002, basketball was the most popular girls' sport in Connecticut, while in 2022, basketball has fell to now the 4th most popular sport. This is a 19% decrease of participation from 2002 through 2022. As of the 2023-24 basketball season, there were 5 FCIAC high schools with no freshmen, and in some cases, also no JV teams due to the lack of female participation. The schools are struggling for participants, and I believe this starts with introducing females to a variety of sports while they're young, so they can build interest in continuing them through high school and beyond. One of the local travel organizations, the Connecticut Blazers, which is based out of Norwalk, has directly told me that they've seen a decline in Norwalk girls trying out and playing, even though they actively recruit throughout the year. This is the opposite of the national trend, as the WNBA coverage has increased 170% since 2023, and the national interest in women's basketball grew 29% from 2023 to 2024. Our 2023-24 recreational basketball program saw only 4 participants through grades 3 through 8, and with very few sports, quote unquote, in season during the winter. It makes me wonder how we can get our female athletes interested in playing again throughout the entire year. The cultural trend is shifting focus from what we consider to be multi-sport athletes to a one-sport focus, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But how do we keep a multi-sport athlete focus and generate the interest to try new sports and become a well-rounded athlete instead of solely focusing on one sport year-round? Now, I'll try to address all of your questions, and feel free to interrupt me along the way if you have further questions or comments to kind of throw in the way there. The first question that you guys presented me with was, you'd like to ask how the resources are earmarked for boys and girls sports in the athletic program. In other words, is there an intentional effort to provide equal resources for girls and marginalized identities? Since I began in this position of January 2024, I've been working to improve the quality of the existing programming by resetting standards, expectations, rules, and procedures. One of the things I've been monitoring is the participation rates of these programs, and in doing so, I wanted to be sure that we have program offerings to include all populations and demographics. If we offer a boys-only program, I try to have an equal offering for females, or at least a co-ed program open to anybody that's interested. My goal is to continue providing quality programs of equal inclusion for all based off of the wants, needs, and interests of the Norwalk residents. The second question you guys have presented me with was, what kind of programs do they have to encourage girls to participate in sports? Currently, we do offer a girls' youth volleyball program that is extremely popular and led by some fantastic female instructors. One of the reasons that I wanted to meet with this committee was to hopefully explore other options and ideas for what may generate more interest in our girls to participate, not just in volleyball, but amongst all of the sports. I was thinking about something like hosting a quote unquote girls sports day, where participants can get an introduction to a variety of sports and then hopefully generate interest from there. Would it be more female instructors and coaches to be the ones leading these girls that would generate more interest? Would more girls programming be the answer? I've kind of come to you to ask, what ideas do you think would help to entice and influence female participation rates moving forward? Next, you guys had asked, do we have a list of girls travel clubs that use our facilities? Because this would give us an idea of what the competition looks like. Outside organizations like field hockey, softball, lacrosse, and soccer all have options for girls during their respective seasons. Since those outside organizations are so large and have a quote unquote stranglehold on their own sport, the rec department currently doesn't offer those same sports in the same season. We may offer instructional based clinics and programs during their off season, but we have not directly tried to compete with these organizations. I can tell you that softball and soccer have a very good sized girls program, and field hockey and lacrosse numbers continue to rise by the year. We also have the Girls Basketball Association that's ran in Norwalk through the Carver Center. I don't have numbers, unfortunately, in terms of how well they're doing, but I do know that that is one of the entities that takes place in the fall time. There's also a couple of other travel basketball programs in town, and in speaking with those in charge of the programs, as stated earlier, they expressed they're not seeing a good number of Norwalk residents participating or even attending their tryouts. Some have even told me that participation and interest amongst the Norwalk residents has been declining over the years, and they're seeing many more participants try out for Wilton, Westport, and Darien. One of my goals is to really try to revive and get the girls basketball program off of the ground in the next year or two. Next, you guys had asked, can we get data from the local non-clubs as to the numbers of participation by girls broken out by age and sport? According to our field coordinator, the outside organizations that utilize our fields and facilities are seeing a rise in female participation, especially in soccer, softball, lacrosse, and field hockey. And our field coordinator has direct contact with these league directors, and they're constantly requesting more field space each year, with a part of their reasoning being more female participation. In
Will?
particular, yes.
Sorry, Will, I just don't want to lose this thought. This is awesome. I want to keep go. I want you to totally keep going, but I just
Yeah,
want to
please.
make sure I understand what you mean when you say the not, you said the folks that are the non-club that are using the facilities, is that, can you just repeat that opening sentence to that?
The question that you guys had said was, can we get data from the local non-clubs as to the numbers of participation by girls broken out by age and sport? So I wasn't quite sure what exactly you guys had meant by the local non-clubs, but what I had done is, in working with our field coordinator, I asked her to contact the different organizations that use our fields and give us a breakdown by gender as to how many boys versus girls they have participating in this particular year. And in terms of those numbers, I actually have them right here in front of me. We have the NJSA soccer program. This year, right now, they have 230 girls participating. Meanwhile, they have 385 guys participating. The Rowayton Football Club, which is also a soccer program based out of Rowayton, we have 159 girls participating, 183 boys participating. For Norwalk Youth Lacrosse, we have 218 girls participating and 208 boys participating. So that's the first one we've had where more girls are participating than boys so far. Softball this year, we had 250 participants, and youth field hockey, we had 120. So that's what the numbers are looking like in terms of the outside organizations. So it's great to see that their female numbers are rising, and they're getting a lot of good response from there. I would now like to see that sort of response come into the rec department programming.
And Will, this is Michelle, just to specify the softball and the field hockey, those numbers were all girls, right?
Oh yeah, sorry about that. The softball and field hockey are both just female only programming.
Yeah.
And will those particular clubs are all Norwalk residents only, correct?
As far as I understand, yes. I'm not sure if any of them are open to non-residents, because I know most of the other surrounding cities that are close to us offer all same sports in their various organizations. So we may have a sprinkling of non-residents in there, but I would say 95 to 99% of them are Norwalk residents.
Got it. Thank you.
The next question that you guys posed to me was, do we know how we compare with neighboring and like-minded cities? Looking at available posted information, There's not much information regarding youth sports, but there is an abundance of information related to the high school sports participation rate. In this area, girls' high school sports tend to be on a decline. Information from the 2023-24 school year shows that the 5 FCX schools did not have freshman teams, and in some cases, no JV team for girls' sports. And some of those schools did not have freshman or JV teams for multiple sports. And these are all on the female side of things. On the boys' side, they seem to be doing okay. So
Will?
this is, yes.
Is there an element to that, though, that could also be, and I know this isn't your purview, but maybe it's something that we could follow up on,
Mhm.
is the financial resources at the schools to support the coaching staff?
I honestly don't know. That information was not something that was available
Of course.
readily, but I could definitely see that that could possibly play a role. I think that beyond that being one of the catalysts, I think that just trying to get more girls to participate at a younger age and continue playing up through high school is the secondary side of it. That's where I'm kind of lost in translation, if you will, in terms of why we're losing so many girls at that transition from middle school to high school and so on. But I'm hopeful that if we can kind of improve our programming and make the development side of things a top-notch quality program, then we'll see the girls stay interested for longer.
Thank you.
And Will, what does FCIAC stand for? Fairfax County something? I'm sorry,
It's the,
Fairfax. Fairfield. I used to live in Fairfax.
Fairfield County Interscholastic Athletic Conference.
Thank you.
So it's basically all of the public high schools in Fairfield County.
Thanks.
All right. Moving on to the next question. You guys had posed was you'd like me to address what the new field at Cranberry School is going to be used for, and the plans for the fields that are impacted by the Norwalk High School construction. The new softball field at Cranberry School will be added to the mix of fields to be used by programming and other outside organizations for rentals and for their programming as well. At the moment, many of our fields are in a bit of rough condition due to the amount of use that they see, especially with the construction of the new high school. We are feeling the squeeze as organizations are asking for more field space, and we have less space and less time because we have to coordinate with the high schools as well. Our field coordinator has done an amazing job communicating with the organizations to set expectations for the next few years, and has done a fantastic job of scheduling these organizations around the high school team's needs so that they don't lose field space or time. Unfortunately, sometimes that means they have to use different field locations, or times may shift from day to day. But this year, we feel like we've got a good start to sorting out the field allocation based off of the needs of the organizations. Because the fields are in rough shape due to the amount of use and abuse that they've been taking throughout the year, we are working on a plan to be able to possibly rest a field each season so that the proper work can be done to maintain them and have them built up for the following year where they'd be safe for use again. That's still a plan in work, so fingers crossed we're going to keep that going and get that sooner than later under wraps. Next question you guys posed.
Christina, can I ask a question? I'm sorry. Well, I came in late, but is this appropriate time to ask questions, or are we waiting for the end?
If you,
Will, thank you. Will, you said we could ask questions as we go along. So I think if it's directly related to something you just mentioned, let's go for it. But if it's like a general question or comment, we'll do those at the end. Is that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, those were my two questions. So, Will, my name is Shannon. Sorry, I'm one of the coaches for the Norwalk House League softball and for the Norwalk Crush travel team.
Okay.
I don't know if you can answer this, but going forward, McMahon saved us this year that it's turf. Is there a plan to turf more of the fields going forward to have that immediate use available at all times?
Unfortunately, I don't have the information for that at the moment. I can speak with our Parks and Rec director sometime this week and try to get a better idea of if that's in the plans. I can tell you that I do know that putting artificial turf on a field costs an amazing amount of money and is a very, very big undertaking. So it probably end up going under the capital projects.
Right.
I don't know specifically if any are at this time listed to be a capital project or
yeah, that's what I was wondering. Just as like you said, some of them are in rough shape, and I know there is. I was on the council. I get that there's a much higher cost, but to be able to use those fields like that, it just saves programs. I mean, it really does.
Yeah, and you know, I definitely see it from both sides in terms of wanting to get the fields turf and you know, hopefully keeping them for longer and better shape. I also realize that it is a very big undertaking and a huge cost, and especially with us already losing fields due to the construction of the high school.
Yeah.
You know, I would feel that that's probably a capital project that's going to be pushed until after the high school would be completed. But
Yeah.
I can definitely check on that and try to find out some more information and get back to you guys with that.
Okay, and Cranberry will now that it's online, it'll be part of your regular maintenance because it kind of went. It was looking pretty sad there for a little bit, and then seems to have been used a little bit, so it was getting some attention. But
Yeah, it should be under our maintenance scheduling now. I will double check on that. I know there for a while when the field had first been finished, they had to let the sod basically, I forget the term that they use, but basically settle in.
mhm.
And I think that might have been kind of that transition period where the field wasn't looking the greatest. But like I said, I know that it's now back on our maintenance schedule, and between now and we'll say springtime, it will be worked on and be ready for next year to be used.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions before we keep going? All right, we'll keep on. Next question you guys had posed was, can I give you an overview of the athletic programs for girls, women, and co-ed? Right now, we have youth girls volleyball, which offers a volleyball program for ages 8 to 15. We do the programming pretty much all throughout the school year, fall, winter, and spring. With spring weather permitting, we hopefully like to go outside to the beach as we run the last session of the year. In the past, we've ran the Dot Bondi Girls Basketball League. This was the girls basketball program that was instituted after the GBA left the rec department. The program saw a massive decline in number over the years, and as I've stated previously, we only had 4 participants in grades 3 through 8 last year. This year, what we did is instead of running the girls only league, we opened up our Biddy League, which is considered the boys league, to be co-ed for anybody interested in basketball to join the fun. We also have a junior tennis program. That's a co-ed program. Unfortunately, that program does not have a followable trend in terms of female participation. One session, it will be extremely female dominant and very few boys. And the next, it will be the exact opposite, mostly guys and very few girls. We offer co-ed basketball skills and drills programs throughout the year. It's pretty much a year-round thing. We have offered it in the summertime and had some decent responses. And that one, we tend to get some good female participation. It's not usually the biggest class. I would much like to see the participation rate for that program increase both on the boys and girls side. And then in terms of adult sports, we have a number of different offerings to include females. We have volleyball leagues that take place both indoors and at the beach through the summertime. We have softball throughout the summer and fall. We have a bocce league that takes place from, we'll say, late spring until early fall. And we have pickleball instructional classes that we just began. And then next, you guys had asked if I can share the following data with you. The first one was the number of rec and parks athletic programs by gender. So first I'll go through the youth programming and then I'll go through the adult programming. In terms of the youth programming, we have 2 female-only programs, which was the youth volleyball program and the Dot Bondi basketball program. So the programming that I'm going to talk about right now is what we've done mostly in the past. I'll kind of give you the update of how we're moving forward in terms of moving now and into the future. So again, as I mentioned a moment ago, the Dot Bondi basketball program is not going to run this year. We're going to open it up for the Biddy basketball program to be co-ed. I would hope in the next year or 2 that we'll get some bigger participation rates for our girls, and we can go ahead and reestablish the girls basketball league and keep them separate again. We have 1 male-only program, which was the Biddy basketball program. And again, we've now opened that up to be co-ed this year. In terms of co-ed programming, we have 7 different programs that currently run. We have tennis, basketball skills. We have a soccer program, a baseball program, the Biddy basketball program, and we had a fall baseball program.
Will you be able to share? This is amazing. Like, you're giving us such great information that I think we're gonna even want to digest deeper. But
Yeah.
so keep going. But will you be able to share this with us in written form? Hopefully,
Yeah.
it's already written up. Okay.
Yes, it's all written down. I actually shared a copy of it with Michelle earlier today, but I can
Great.
definitely forward it to you guys tomorrow with some of my edits and things like that. So
Great,
no
thank
worries
you.
there, of
I
course.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Keep going.
So I think we're about to start on adult programming. Adult programming, we at the moment do not have any female only programs. We do have 3 male only programs. We have a men's softball league, flag football, and men's basketball. I can tell you that this year we did open up the men's softball league a little bit to females. We had a couple of them who had wanted to play on the guys' nights. They weren't available for our traditional co-ed league, which is on Thursday night. And so they basically came to me and requested if they could play on the Monday or Tuesday evening games. And I pretty much, keeping safety in mind, just said, as long as you guys know what you're getting into and you understand that you are going to be severely outnumbered being the females in play, then we can go ahead and allow you guys to participate. So they actually did participate, and to tell you the truth, they probably saved their team a couple of wins there throughout the season. So it was nice to see that they took on a starring role with their teams. In terms of male, in terms of co-ed programming, we have our beach volleyball league, which was tremendous this year. We had almost 4 full nights of teams. And when it comes to the beach volleyball, that being co-ed, we have a minimum number of females that have to play on each night. If you're playing in our 4s league, which is 4 people on each team at a time, you have to have a minimum of 2 girls. And when it comes to the 6s league, where it's 6 people on each side, again, you also have to have a minimum of 2 girls to play. Same thing with our indoor volleyball league. We have a co-ed softball league, industrial softball, which we've opened up to females too. And that's basically where the companies will come in and provide a team, and it's more company-based as opposed to recreational-based, where you would just form a team amongst your friends. We do offer co-ed tennis. Our bocce program is co-ed. The teams for that, we don't have any restrictions. If you wanted to make an all-female team, a co-ed team, or an all-male team, basically all combined playing at the same time. And then our pickleball program, which is co-ed as well. Let's see. The next question, in terms of information that you guys had asked, was the number of hours used of public fields by gender. The number of hours that the fields are used by gender is relative to the number of participants and teams in each program. For instance, the soccer programs give each team the same amount of practice time each week, regardless if it's boys or girls. Each organization receives its equal share of field space and time based on its number of participants. We typically try to accommodate the requested fields and times that they request before beginning their seasons. Some organizations have to use different fields on different nights so that certain sports can receive time on the artificial turf fields. For instance, when field hockey is using the artificial turf fields for practices, the soccer program may be quote unquote moved to a grass field or another location for their practices that evening. And then you guys asked if there were any policies in place for transgender children that want to join programs for the gender that they identify with. I have not currently run into any issues on this topic. I am not currently aware of any written policies that are in place, but the city of Norwalk values LGBTQ+ youth and other residents and encourages them to participate in the programs that they are interested in. With safety always being the #1 concern, as long as it is safe to do so, all of our programs are flexible to allow anyone interested in participating to do so. For instance, the example that I gave you a moment ago, this summer and fall, we had a couple of females that preferred to play in the men's softball league instead of the designated co-ed leagues, and we allowed them to play and had a great time in doing so. We're valuable assets to their teams. And then just to reiterate, as long as safety is not an issue, we are open to allowing participants to participate in any program that they may be interested in. Next, you guys had asked how you identify the programs that are needed in the community. And I'm a face-to-face type of person, so I like to actively visit all of our programming, speak to our instructors, parents, and the participants directly to see what they might be interested in and what sort of offerings that they'd like to see. Currently, I've not brought on many new programs. Instead, my focus has been on improving the quality of what is already offered. I have been trying to bring back some programs that were offered in the past and fizzled out, but I've received interest because I have received interest for those programs again. I also review my emails diligently and keep notes on program interest when expressed. I receive a number of emails with requests for different types of programming, and if I receive expressed interest from a minimum of 3 people, I'll typically try to put a program together and see if it'll take off. I also like to take a concept from a former job position that I had in terms of what they called, quote unquote, successful failures. In other words, putting together a program that there may not have been a ton of expressed interest for, and then trying to generate interest from scratch. Sometimes those programs take off, and other times they fall flat on their face. And that's when I'll go back and review if tweaking the program would work or if there's really not enough interest to continue pursuing it. Part of the reason I wanted to be a part of this meeting is to explore ideas how we can be more in touch with the community to see what they would like to see offered. And then you guys, I had a couple of add-on questions that came in this morning. One of them was how many children's rec and park programs are available and which gender do they serve? I think I had gone over that in terms of when I gave you the breakdown of the different programs by gender. And then in the adult rec and park programs, are there gender specific athletic and recreational activities? Currently, the majority of adult sports offerings that have been taking place are co-ed with the exception of the men's softball league. But even there, we've opened it up and have a few females that are participating. I'm looking to expand our adult offerings with the inclusion of men's flag football, men's basketball, and a women's basketball league. I actually got an email this morning with interest to have a women's basketball league, and I'm going to try to host an open gym session either in November or December, depending on when the calendar works out. And if we get a good enough response and people are interested, I'll look to try to run a league for them as well. I'm also looking to add other sports in the future. For example, I would like to bring in kickball, cornhole, ultimate frisbee, and any other sports that may be of interest to the Norwalk residents. Outside of the rec and parks sports offerings, we do offer various other programming that range from everything from crocheting to yoga. And then the last question that I got is, how is the cooperation with the public schools facilities with various programs offered to children? Cooperation with the schools is an ongoing process as each school has its own after-school programming and events throughout the year. I feel like we've got a pretty good relationship with the schools that we typically use for the programming, especially the ones that have been hosts for our programs for a long time, like Silvermine and our girls' youth volleyball program. I'd like to continue working with the individual schools and the Board of Education to find new ways to directly market and advertise our programming with the parents of our students. A few ideas that I have are distributing flyers to students within the school. Even though this isn't the most environmentally savvy idea, it's a tangible thing that students and parents alike can receive and remember to register. Another idea is a quote unquote community board with our program flyers and information available at the front of the school, whether it be directly outside the doors or just inside the lobby areas. There's any possibility to share a list of parents' email addresses that we could obtain that we could send the program info to, that would be great. And any way that we can directly advertise our programs to the potential participants would be ideal in increasing our participation rates. The schools themselves are receptive to our use of the facilities to host our programming when necessary, and they do a good job of informing us when the facility won't be available for our use. I look forward to establishing new relationships and building on top of the ones that we already have to help provide safe, fun, developmental programming for the youth of our city going forward. And that wraps it up in terms of the questioning. So I would like to thank you guys again for having me take part in the meeting and putting a spotlight on gender equity in sports. I kind of want to ask you guys now, if you were a Norwalk youth, what would entice you to want to participate? And what ideas do you have that could be of use to create interest to participate?
Well, that was awesome. So we're going to open it up. Shannon raised her hand first. So Shannon, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. That was super informative. I play co-ed and it was a great season. We were the champions, just for the record.
I thought I
but just-
recognized your name.
Yeah, just a quick question though. You gave us an immense amount of data, which we love. This group loves data, and you gave us concrete data, which we really love, not thoughts, which is amazing. We weren't sure you'd be able to come up with this kind of information. I don't think you mentioned the kids flag football, because there is a good number of girls in that program, just to further your data points.
You are correct. I unfortunately didn't have a chance to reach out to their organization and get their numbers. They, being in season, were a little bit tougher to stay in communication with than some of the other organizations that are either not in season or have the numbers more readily available. So
Yeah.
I do know that we do have a good contingent of females that are participating in flag football. I unfortunately just didn't have those numbers for you today.
Okay, no, it's fine. I can see if I can find out. My daughter plays, so just, you know, that you have that to add. Like I said,
Yep.
you really gave us really concrete numbers, which is amazing. And I would just like to, you know, further boost those numbers of girls participating in sports.
Definitely.
Great, thank you.
Sharon? Oh, you're muted. You muted yourself again. You muted and then you unmuted.
All these years. I just wanted to say thank you, Will. That was really thoughtful and we really appreciate that. My name's Sharon Benante. I have 2 kids that are in the public schools. I also played 3 sports at Nork High. And I guess I have a list of questions, so I'm just gonna kind of fire away. Just work with
Sure.
me here on this. But again, amazing job, and just the thoughtfulness that you put into this is so incredible. I guess the first question is, along with the data that you're saying, and there's so much of it for us to absorb, and a couple folks asked for that data on paper, but is there also a way for us to access the spend by gender?
I could look into that. I actually don't have those figures off the top of my head, or didn't have them available, unfortunately, in time for the meeting. But I can definitely look to try to get those numbers for you.
Yeah, I'm just curious if it's public information as well.
I honestly don't know that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. The other question or opportunity that I see is maybe an opportunity to really partner with the BOE or MPS and do some sort of like roundtable discussion. And I
That's
think, what's that?
I was just going to kind of piggyback on what you were saying and saying that that's something that I was interested in doing. You guys were kind of my first step in terms of branching out to the different, we'll say, committees and organizations and things like that to start the discussion, if you will. So it's definitely something that's on my list in terms of going upstairs to the 3rd floor of City Hall and making myself well known up there.
Yeah, because you obviously have so much information. So just from my perspective as a parent, so here's what I see, and just kind of here's how my brain works. So we have NJSA, right? 250 girls. There's a few co-ed middle school teams for soccer where it's co-ed, 2 girls are required to play out of 9. So at any given point, there's 4 girls out of 18 on a team, right? So you can imagine there's a lot of fall off. The girls don't want to play when it's all boys, right? And then, so if I could just finish my thought process here, and then you take a look at, so now we have a whole bunch of girls that just fell off, right? And then you look at NHS and they have no freshman girls soccer team, right? They have no JV girls soccer team. You look at Brian McMahon, no freshman girls soccer team, and all the boys have it. So if we can like figure out a way to work together to build programming in so that we get these girls in, that would be really terrific, so that we're not working so separately. The other thing that I wanted to mention is, you know, we haven't really talked to the students. I think we should look at maybe having the Board of Ed survey the students, ask the girls, why are you not participating? Like, what's really going on? Is it mental health? Is it money? Is it, you know, like, let's find out the reason behind it. If there's any way we could do that, I think that that would be really important data. The other thing, the last thing I wanted to mention is, did you say that there was 3 male adult leagues, but no women leagues, or no like women programs?
Yes, currently we don't have any specific women's leagues in terms of a sole women only league. We just have not had the interest generated to have that many female participants in a given sport to do so. You know, that's something that I'm hopeful with the email I received this morning about the basketball league. I'm hopeful that when I run an open gym for the adult females, that we will have a good number turnout. I can talk with them then and kind of get a better idea of what they're looking for, if a league would be something they're looking to participate in, or if it would be more of an open gym style programming. And then from there, kind of build on top of it until we get enough interest to run an actual league.
And are you saying, so leagues are separate from programs? Is that correct? Or is this?
Well, when I look at a program, I kind of think of programming more of like an instructional style program. and
Okay.
a league more of,
Gotcha.
team based. You'll have games, playoffs ensuing at the end type of thing. Whereas, programming is, I guess you could say, I refer to much more on the developmental side, and league
Yeah.
is more of a strictly play side of things.
I gotcha. And then my last, sorry guys, it's just all floating in my head. I need to get this out. The final question that I have is a couple of years ago, you guys had mentioned that there was a survey that was sent out. And I know it was a little, or even a year ago as well. Do you know when you're going to be surveying the public, or is that something you plan on doing? I know you said you'd like to talk to everybody and
Yeah, currently I don't have anything set up at the moment, but again, that's sort of where I wanted to start with this commission and this meeting in terms of trying to establish some community relationships, get my name out there so you guys kind of are familiar with me, give you a little bit of my background and what goes on from my standpoint of the administrator of the sports programming. And then from there, I'm looking to kind of directly get involved with the community, get more responses in terms of how we can move forward and what they would like.
awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Will. Thank you so much for answering all those questions. Appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
thanks for being here.
And Will, Yvonne is up next. You just started, Will, in January, correct?
Yes. So
Okay.
unfortunately, I don't.
Sharon, I want to help him out a little bit, Sharon.
Yeah.
I'm just asking the questions. I know,
No,
Will, you're a saint.
wait.
You're a saint, Will.
My
I mean,
brain
I-
is the same space, Sharon. So,
Yeah.
Yvonne.
I luckily do have some familiarity with being a Norwalk native. I did leave Norwalk for a number of years when I went to college and for the early part of my professional life. But Norwalk's always been home. I've always loved everything about this city, and it's really an honor for me to be in this position and now be the administrator of the programming that helped make me who I am.
Very cool. Okay, so I'm next. Will, nice to meet you. I'm Yvonne, and you are in luck because I don't have any questions for you. I actually am actually going to answer your question. If I was a youth in Norwalk, what would I like to see in the programming? One of the things that I keep on thinking about Norwalk is one of the most diverse towns I have seen in Lower Fairfield County. And because of that, I think if I was a youth living in this town from a diverse background, I would like to see sports that are tied culturally to my background and my family's background. I know for a lot of culturally diverse people, their parents are a key element on whether they play sports or not. So attracting parents and talking to parents is kind of a key element. Maybe being present at the school's parents meetings or having a table discussing with parents what there is available out there would be a great way to reach to people. Also seeing athletes that I can relate to. I don't know how, but how girls are really in Connecticut love basketball because we have UConn, and so it's kind of like a big incentive for children to see themselves in those athletes that are representing certain sports. I think there are certain limitations for people, for example, like transportation or access to uniforms or equipment that they may need, depending on their financial needs. Many of our kids may have to go back home after school to take care of their siblings if their parents are working. So that may be a limitation as well. And I think for a lot of girls, there is a high focus on academics as well, and playing sports that do not interfere with their academics is an important part as well. We tend to play a lot of competitive sports, and people have to travel and be all over the place and have a crazy schedule in order for their kids to play a sport. And I've always felt that, our area falls behind with the sports just being fun instead of being competitive. And I think that's another way to get to children to say, hey, you don't have to qualify for a college through sports. You can just play sports because you like it. So that's my input.
Definitely, and thank you so much for your feedback. I really appreciate it. Just to respond to a couple of points that you brought up, one of them was the price point that you had mentioned, and it might be too costly for some of our residents. And we definitely have looked at that and have kind of examined it. I've done bit of a cost study, if you will, comparing to all of the surrounding cities near us. And we are by far the lowest price point for all of our programming in basically all of Fairfield County. For instance, I can give you a quick number off the top of my head. The youth basketball program that we run during the wintertime, which is our biddy program, our price point is $150 for Norwalk residents. Bridgeport would be probably the closest in terms of an income, disparity level like Norwalk that's relatively close to us, and their program costs over $200. So we're already kind of in terms of price point on the lower end of things, and we are working towards providing scholarships and possible sliding scale price points moving forward. We're kind of in the mix of doing some research on that and looking to possibly implement that hopefully in the near future. And then the other point that I wanted to respond to was the fun versus competitive side of things. And I could not agree more with you with that. I definitely look at it as a standpoint of not all sports need to be competitive in nature. They'll have some competitive element, but I do realize, especially as youth, you want to get out there and just have fun with your friends. So that's definitely part of the shift in some of the focus that we have with some of our programming and trying to get away from being so competitive and win at all costs, go back to a little bit more of a developmental side of things and include the fun side a lot more.
Thank you.
Will. Joy has some questions. Joy has a question.
Yes, hello, Will.
That's her hand.
It's Joy.
Hi, Joy.
Hi. You had an excellent presentation, and I can vouch for Will because he's been a great supporter of little girls volleyball that we've had for 10 years. I've had 6 bosses from Rec and Parks over the past 10 years, and a couple of things that I think the topics that we're bringing up are exactly the reason why 4 moms decided to start the volleyball program for girls to excel at a sport that builds confidence and it's inclusive. So you don't have to become a D1 athlete, but you will have volleyball IQ in your back pocket to help with your, self-esteem and just be able to be a little bit better shape and maybe play in a rec league sometime, like their old coach here, and just have a little fun without hurting yourself. And I have the joy of understanding a sport and not the fear. So Will's been great in promoting that, but in answer to some of your questions, why there's not a JV or a freshman team for girls sports in the past, since 2 years ago, Norwalk and Brian McMahon now have a freshman, a JV, and a varsity team, and they had over 180 girls try out. But when my daughter was at Brian McMahon 9 years ago, they barely had enough for varsity. So to answer your question, your feeder program is so important to have the integrity of having a girls program at the high school, because they cannot support it if there's not the participation nor some of the talent. Secondly, I think that it's very important for the girls to be able to associate themselves with certain volleyball players and athletes. And so I'll show pictures of all different types of volleyball players that, are short and Asian like me, and maybe not short and Asian like me. And it's okay, because volleyball players are all different sizes and shapes and colors. And it's good to see that. And every child will hopefully succeed at something in the class. No one's perfect, and the perfect athlete's not what we look for. But I wanted to thank Will because the program has been able to foster that. And now we have 2 boys programs in volleyball, which we never had before at the high school. It's a first. So again, I have Rec and Parks to thank. And I really was enlightened by some of the information. And I would appreciate everybody's feedback, especially Will, because you've been a great supporter and a help for this program. But I think the equity kind of lies within maybe how the community deals with these young children to promote it. And who better to do that is a Norwalk resident.
I definitely agree. And to kind of piggyback on one of the points that you had said in terms of showing, the athletes, people that are similar to them. And one thing that I'm looking forward to doing in terms of reaching out to the high schools and seeing how we can foster a better relationship with each other is bring back, I guess we could refer to it as a program from when I was a youth. We used to have sort of a quote unquote hometown hero program, if you will. And with the basketball program, if I remember correctly, it was either once or twice throughout the season where the high school teams would open their practice. We would be able to go and practice with them, and we would also watch them practice. So we got an idea of what it was like to play on the high school level, but we also got to have some fun with the team as well. It created that hometown hero effect where you knew these guys, you saw them, you got to interact with them. If you saw them in a store or out on the street somewhere, you know, they were, hey, how's it going? I remember you from the basketball practice and things like that. And I think that for me as a youth helped to entice to continue myself playing. And I definitely think that that's something that if we bring back, we can help to foster these feeder programs, if you will, from the youth side, so that they'll continue participation up to the high school level and beyond.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm just trying to survey, look, any more hands up or listen to anybody's hand. Oh, Emma, go ahead.
Sorry to jump in at the end,
No,
Christina.
don't be sorry.
but,
Don't be sorry. That's why we're here.
Yeah, Will, thank you so much for all of this information. It's really helpful. I don't have any questions either, but similar to Yvonne, I want to offer what I think would entice me as a youth in Norwalk to play sports. And, you know, I think something really important for all youth is to find something that they can be passionate about and that they can feel like they have a sense of belonging, a sense of community, and maybe even also a sense of success in doing. And I think that's so important for children in order to feel like, you know, they are successful and they can achieve and they can do big things. And I think it tends to dovetail with academics and maybe make them more motivated in the classroom if they're also having success in their life outside of the classroom. And it's not sports for everyone, you know, it might be music, it might be theater, it might be the arts, but for many it is sports. And I just think, you know, what Norwalk is already doing and hopefully continues to do by offering a wide array of sports and a great, you know, variety and diversity of offerings is really important so that people of all skill levels and of various backgrounds and interests can, you know, find something that appeals to them. And I would also echo Yvonne's comments too on the fun side of it, because I think that's really important too. I think especially at the high school level, there's so much focus on college and what do I need to do and how will my resume look and what can I do to position myself the best. And I think, you know, for so many kids, you can also just enjoy and that's okay. And I think, you know, helping them to learn that too is important. So thank you for the work you're doing. And, you know, we look forward to following along and seeing everything that comes next.
Thank you.
So, well, thank you indeed. And honestly, a lot of, I think the other piece of it is a lot of what we might be able to do and how we might be able to partner and support this work really goes to how kind of our next agenda item actually is, you know, sort of looking at maybe some looking at committees and our priorities and such. But I think to some degree, there's a space for us to help support this in multiple levels, in social outreach, which we've talked about, right? Like how can we, as a commission, also get involved with some of the outreach and activity promotion, right? Not running the activities, but helping to promote it and the awareness. How can we help with advocacy issues and policy issues to help advance some of the equity issues that I think we're raising? And also how to kind of celebrate Norwalk and what we do, right? It's easy to find out what we don't do and don't do well. But I think there are some things and you know, my wheels are turning that we can talk as a commission. But for example, seeing the effect of the pipeline program with the volleyball, like that's a real important story to be told. And so ways that the commission can sort of get involved, because you really came to us wanting to know, you know, our feedback and how we can help. I think we might be able to come up with some very concrete responses to your request to us. And then also, you know, kind of keep asking the right questions. Like we'll keep asking questions because I think the questions, it allows us all to learn and grow. But I think we can also answer your question and get back to you and kind of some follow-up. I actually also grew up here in Norwalk. I only had one choice every season of a female sport. Soccer, girls soccer didn't even play yet, or didn't exist in Oaxaca yet. So Sharon, it shows our age difference. Probably you had more sports than I did.
Soccer.
You were soccer?
No soccer, and I jumped over to field hockey instead.
Yep,
There's girls
that's
soccer.
it. I did field hockey and I did softball, and then my two young sons actually played all the youth sports. So here in town, and I saw us lose a lot of people, both young women and young girls and young boys, to club sports. So I'd like to think that tide may be turning back, where people are staying in town to play and have fun and enjoy. So our role as a commission really is to serve and address issues of gender equity in town. And so this might be really something that we could also help support and promote and encourage. So thank you, Will, for your input. And we actually had some people, Michelle, drop off. So we still have quorum. I think, yes. Okay. So Will, thank you. Appreciate it. And we will be in touch with you with maybe some follow-up questions. And more importantly, if you have follow-up questions for us, please let us know.
Definitely. Thank you guys again. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to be able to meet with you guys and have this discussion. I really hope that this is not the first and last time that we have this discussion. I would like to continue our conversation, with any ideas that you guys may have. And if I have any other questions for you, I would love to come back and hopefully get some feedback from you guys as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
You will. All right. So Michelle, as a matter of record, I think we lost our note taker.
Yeah, it's recorded. That's
It is.
okay.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, I think we could, I don't know. I don't know about the rest of you, but I certainly feel he answered all of our questions. And I think to the best of his ability, and really came prepared and provided some good feedback. So Michelle, thank you for engaging him. Other thoughts, reactions, or just moving on to the next agenda item?
Well, just, thinking about how we can creatively support what he's doing, right? Just
Right.
as we go move along with conversations.
And there could also be a kind of a direct tie between some of the committees that we look to identify and, the work that he wants to do and some of the advocacy. Emma, I love your cat. Oh my God, she's so cute.
I'm sorry. She decided
Nope.
she wanted to come tonight.
No apologies needed. All right. All right. So moving right along, and then in the agenda is the follow-up. I'm sorry, let me just double check I'm gonna toggle back and forth. I'm on one screen. So our next agenda item is really just to talk about next steps after last week's meeting, where we identified as a result of our survey some priorities in the September meeting, and then also talked about maybe some committees. So the minutes reflected sort of everything we talked about, but I just wanted to touch base on what at least my minutes showed and just kind of check in if that was an accurate recollection from the conversation and the notes. We had the priorities, the top 3 priorities that bubbled up, and this doesn't mean that we don't address any other issue that was raised. It's just these happen to be the issues that bubbled up as the top 3 issues: violence against women, childcare, and voting awareness. So that was my understanding from the presentation. Yvonne, thank you. And from the data. Oh, there she goes.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe I can share the presentation as you talk. I have it open over here, if you're okay with
So
that.
I think maybe our goal tonight would be to just confirm the priorities. Sorry, just getting a soda, not a adult, just getting a soda. Didn't hear that. And then also look at the potential committees, which I think were, again, from what I understood, community outreach, policy advocacy, and civic engagement. So I just wanted to kind of get folks' thoughts and have some conversation around that. So I don't know, do you want to show the presentation again, or
Sure.
at
I'll
least
put that slide up. here it is. All right.
Right.
So those were our,
The current
Yes,
commit, right, right.
exactly. That's for the committees, and then what to engage in is in this slide.
Okay, so my notes were actually somewhat accurate. So what are folks' thoughts? So would it be best to maybe identify some standing committees for the next coming year? Again, that doesn't mean other committee work can't be formed, can't come together. It's just in the sense of kind of getting us started. So for example, right, like a direct correlation, if one of our committees is civic engagement, I think just maybe the possibility of bringing, and this is Sharon to your comment, bringing together NPS and the Board of Ed and NOAA Parks and Rec together and maybe having the commission sort of moderate a conversation and a roundtable might be a really great example of civic engagement that also, ties into some work. So that's how I'm trying to suggest we operationalize it, but that's just something to get us moving. It's nothing that we have, like, we're not holding anybody to that. It's not an activity that we absolutely have to do. I'm just trying to illustrate maybe how the activities can be tied to the committees. Does that make sense? Thoughts, reactions, opinions?
I think that a good thing for us to do would be to see who wants to be in which committee and just get people engaged. Our group has changed a little bit since we met last time, so maybe we can just take down names and see who is interested in being in one of the committees, these three that were the most popular.
Right. And again, it would be community outreach, policy advocacy, and civic engagement.
Correct.
All right. Well, we could do a couple things. We could have people say so now, which I think to your point is would be helpful, or we can do I can do a follow-up survey. I know, Yvonne, you're pretty swamped with some things right now, but I can get a quick Google survey out to the commission to ask people to pick committees and identify what their preferences. Would that be of help?
I think a survey might make sense because we've lost a few of our members tonight in this meeting. So I think we might be able to reach a broader audience and make sure, all commissioners are included in that decision if we do a survey.
Yeah, I agree. And just to see it in black and white, I tried to look when Yvonne had screen shared, and obviously we're trying to, see each other. So just to see it all laid out again would be really helpful.
Okay. All right, great. So then I can send that out probably tomorrow. I can get that out.
Great.
That's on the committees. Okay, so that would be the committees. That's piece of it. And you're right. I think if we then don't have anybody signing up for a particular committee, then that's an issue that in and of itself we'd want to comment upon. Go ahead, Sharon. Just jump in.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Can you sort of just define how you see the difference between community outreach and civic engagement? Can it be one?
I'm wondering the same thing too, just to jump in. I also think it might help to have, if we did choose to put those two committees together, just because we are kind of a small commission. And I feel like if we're breaking up into 3 committees, it might get kind of disjointed, but just a thought.
Totally fair. I literally asked Google right before we jumped on the call what civic engagement means, because I knew what it meant in my head, but I too was struggling with a little bit of a differentiation between the two. Can you put that slide back up? Sorry.
Yes. I just want to put in the chat the definitions we had when we sent them out.
That's what I was looking for.
And then I'll put that back on. It's
There's
just, I
no
can't-
chat. That's why.
There's no chat. That's why. I was like, I can't find the chat.
I went
okay.
to do that too.
I'll put this slide back up.
Because I think the
Because-
definitions were on that.
In the slide is a little bit cut. That's what happens. But,
Oh, I see.
let me put them over here.
I mean, I know what civic engagement is, but I'm just wondering what the definition is for us here.
Right. No. It's true. I wanted to, yeah, totally fair enough.
All right, I can't paste it, so sorry. But yeah, let's have the conversation what it looks for us.
Can you read what it was?
Yes, I have it here.
Okay,
Can you
go ahead.
see it? Community outreach organizes outreach events and gathers community feedback to ensure that the organization effectively addresses local needs. Civic engagement designs and implements initiatives to encourage public engagement, voter participation, and community activism. And then policy advocacy monitors and analyzes relevant legislation and policies, develops advocacy strategies, and engages with lawmakers and stakeholders to mobilize community support.
You're right, maybe we're just looking at two committees. Again, it doesn't mean other committees and other work wouldn't come up. I don't know, just let me.
I can say that community outreach is probably something we should be doing all the time, and civic engagement is something that we can engage in seasonally. But I'm not sure. I mean, we want to encourage people to be part of boards and commissions as well, and engage into that kind of engagement. So I'm not sure.
Well, one of the thoughts that maybe could have, I'm sorry if there's a hand up, I didn't see it, sorry. Maybe part of the thought would be to isolate, I see what you're saying. So sort of community outreach is something we do on a regular basis, whereas civic engagement, no, sorry, I'm getting myself all twisted up here. Sorry. If we were to just have the two committees, which would be civic engagement and policy advocacy, and to some degree, community outreach would actually touch upon all of those, because if there's public advocacy, we would need to be doing some community outreach to get the temperature of the city. If we're doing civic engagement and the issue of women and girls equity in sports in town comes up, we need to do some community outreach to get to an understanding of what people are thinking. So community outreach might be sort of the thread that runs across everything, to your point, Yvonne, that you were just saying. I think I'm hearing something different in my head. So
I like your version better.
So then the two committees would be policy advocacy and civic engagement. We can identify who's interested in those two. And then that particular committee, who's ever interested in that, potentially we would say meet once before the next meeting and come back to us with sort of a definition and sort of a motivation for that committee. Does that make sense? Yes, folks are comfortable with that. I know it's getting later, so go ahead,
Yeah, I
Sharon.
think that's a good idea, Sharon, Christina, just to do with that. Yeah. I think two committees night leaves us some wiggle room for if something comes up specific, we can, hone in on a one topic thing as needed. But overall, we have our goals for the go forward.
Sharon, were you going to say something similar or?
That's good. With all.
Seems like people are
And
in
probably one
agreement.
thing that would be helpful as those two committees form is to look back over past minutes to make sure there are no issues that are sort of still out there. Like I'm thinking to the point of the menstrual law and equity conversation and advocacy work. So that'll, I think, be another piece of it. So if we're comfortable, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing Joy. She's right next to me and I'm not seeing her raise her hand if she needs to. Are you anything? You're good. For the next meeting, we can sort of report out on those two, have those two committees sort of report out, sort of in just basic initial steps. So if everyone's good with that, I can move on getting the kind of a check-in, like a little poll out for which committees, and then sort of the tasks at hand between now and the next commission meeting.
That sounds great.
Thank you,
Perfect.
Christina.
Feel like I'm talking too much, sorry.
No. Sorry, I went to do the chat too. I have to drop off, but there's no chat to tell you guys that, so sorry.
So when actually we're on to any old business, if there is anything. Yep, Sharon?
I just had a thought. We talked about it earlier about looking into the age that people can join the commission, because it might be really helpful with some of the work that we're doing to have a high school student on our commission.
Yeah, there wasn't an age restriction when I looked into it, I thought.
Okay.
I can double check because I thought I know we talked about this a few months ago, but that's what I recall.
I
That's a
think it would be
great idea.
great to have young people. Probably we will attract more young people when we change our name.
Speaking of, I know Michelle was following up with the ordinance committee. Any updates on that, Michelle, and what we can do to be a little bit more assertive in that conversation?
No, I have to check back in with the law department. Sorry, last week was just a little bit hectic for me.
Okay. Okay. And then the only other, so thank you. So Sharon, it doesn't sound like there's any restrictions on age. So keep in mind, we have some openings. Just if everyone can be mindful. I will confer with Michelle to confirm what our openings are and what, if any, political affiliation they have to be, just so that there is balance on the commission. So other outstanding items are old business, the commission name, thank you. We'll look to hear back on that. Also, I just lost my train of thought. Oh no. Never mind. Couldn't have been important. Gonna come to me as soon as I hang up. Nope, don't remember. I cannot for the life of me remember.
It's okay.
I'm just okay, we still have quorum, right? Yes. Okay. Yeah, I lost it.
You can
Sorry.
email us when you think of it.
I will, but it doesn't help the formal record if I don't remember. Oh, well. That's good. All good. Any other old business? Oh, I do remember. Sorry, see. My apologies, folks. The one thing that we would need to move relatively quickly on, and I'll put this in the notes regarding the committees, because I think it would be the Civic Engagement Committee that would be a part of this, or maybe this is an ad hoc committee, and that is our awards program that we did last year. There seemed to be great momentum around it. There does seem to be a lot of templates. There were some lessons learned. So I think maybe a part of an old business conversation or question would be, would we want an ad hoc committee to work on that particular event, or see if the Civic Engagement Community and Civic Engagement Committee would want to work on that? Just, I don't know if we want to answer that now, but I think we need to give that some thought, certainly by the next meeting.
Mhm.
So give it thought for the next meeting. I will put it in my little survey.
What is the timeline on that? It's coming right up, right?
We were actually behind by about a month last year. I think we wanted to get things started almost in November, December, because we wanted to provide the award in March.
And I don't want to twist things and make it crazy and complicated, but I think maybe that group is community outreach and civic engagement, both for that reason, because you're reaching out, and I'm not trying to twist it, just something to think about. Maybe it's just both in one.
And it may be that maybe there are folks that just want to work on the awards, right? And so, right? So, all right, I will put it in my little update to you all to get your feedback on. And so that once that feedback comes back, then maybe the group of folks that want to start to work on the award, we can sort of transfer some of the files, give them the Google Docs and the whole bit. So maybe some momentum can get started between now and then. So for Emma and Joy, we did a Women of Impact Award. I think I had learned of an impact award. It was a youth and an adult. I had learned that there were impact awards after the fact, that name was already being used somewhere. So I I think we may need to discuss if that's how we continue with it or not, so. Okay,
Awesome.
okay. Any more old business? Okay, is there a call to adjourn? A motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
And
Oh.
now second.
All righty, excellent, Emma and Yvonne, and meeting adjourned at 8:17.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you, everybody.
you.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
Bye,
Good
thanks.
night.
Thank you.